Hello and welcome to this episode of Building Blocks, in which we're talking about writing lyrics, and in particular how I go about evolving a lyrical concept from its very beginning, from its birth. And I want to do it in the context of one of the songs that we've been discussing recently, which is Hummingbird. And in that, the last Back on Tracks episode that I did, and I'll embed a link somewhere, I specifically mentioned that it was a good example of a song to elaborate on this concept with, because it's in development. There are lines in that song that I really like and will almost certainly make their way through to the finished piece. Lines that I really quite strongly dislike and are placeholders. And we can just have a bit of a mull on the whole concept of how lyrics evolve as far as I'm concerned. Sometime last year, I bought a book by Webb called Tunesmith, The Art of Songwriting. And that's really where it all began. It's a fantastic book. I'll put a link below. The best idea I took from the book, out of many great ideas, was the idea of keeping a notepad for each song that I write. I have a separate notepad for every single song that I write, and each version of the lyrics evolve over the course of that notebook. And I'm going to show you the notebook for Hummingbird. But before I do, just a little intro into how the lyrics for Hummingbird came about. So the name, the reason why it's called Hummingbird, is a complete accident. When I was doodling around on the guitar one day and had the initial idea from which most songs spring, I come to save that project in Cubase and I have to give it a name. And sometimes it's a completely generic name like Dorian or whatever key this melodic minor ascending. And sometimes a word or phrase will pop into my mind and I'll use that. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. I typed Hummingbird with absolutely no idea or concept of why or what the song was going to be about. It just happened. So it was just a completely stream of consciousness thing where I typed Hummingbird and went, oh, all right, okay, that's interesting. Wonder where that'll take me. And when I came to think about putting lyrics to it, I had to now decide why is it called Hummingbird? And the first thing that I did was did a Google search for Hummingbird. And in addition to the obvious results that you're going to get about little birds that flap their wings very quickly, there was a second idea. There was a Mexican god, an ancient Mexican god whom the Aztecs worshipped, called Huitzilopochtli, I think. Apologies to anybody from Mexico who would take offense at my mispronunciation, but basically he was a sun god. And soldiers that worshipped him, when they died, would be transformed into hummingbirds and go and serve in his palace. And I thought this was a really interesting idea. And so here's the notepad for Hummingbird. And on page 1, we've got, I'll see if I can, see how much you can see. There you go. So that's page 1 of the Hummingbird notes. And at the top, we've got me talking about this concept. Born or torn, it could be either, from born in anger, torn from my mother at night, torn from my mother in anger. So I'm kind of playing around with trying to find the syllabic structure that's going to fit into the song. Now, torn from my mother in anger works. Born into a world I despise. Just like a flower, your beauty, looking for a way to survive. Now, looking for a way to survive is currently still in. In the shadows I linger, doubting if I'm even alive. Huitzilopochtli they call me. Sunlight lingers, I pause and I hide. And then I've got falls to the ground in surprise. Nightfall threatens, its cold deadly sigh. So I'm just throwing words down onto the page, trying to see what will stick. A lot of this stuff I write as quickly as it comes to mind. I don't worry too much about what the lyrics actually mean. I'm quite happy to write dum-de-dum dum dum-de-dum dum 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 as long as it's the right number of syllables and I can't think of anything else to put there, because at least I'm listening to the music and I'm fitting in how many syllables I'm going to need, and then that can evolve into words. And so that was paragraph 1 in verse 2, I've written almost error-free. Go back to that thing. This is verse 1, an absolute mass of scribbles and horribleness where I'm struggling to try to figure out what I'm talking about. And verse 2 is almost completely stream of consciousness, that there are no mistakes as I write this. And I write, then as the rain clouds pass, the hummingbird flies. Into the warm red summer sun I skitter and dive. And with a golden kiss the hummingbird sighs, drenched in a sweet caress of infinite lives. So, cheesy falls off the cliff there at the end, but in terms of an initial idea, that was like, woo, there's quite a lot in there that I actually quite like. And so my brain's kind of skittering between these two ideas. Am I talking about some warrior going to serve Huitzilopochtli in the afterlife, or am I talking about a hummingbird flying in the warm red summer sun? So this is where the value of the notepad comes in, and this is why I wouldn't do this in digital form. The physical page for me is still king, because having got that far and got that set of ideas on the page, I now turn my notepad and I have a brand new blank page, and now I can start developing those ideas. And the first thing that I'll do is refer back to my earlier page and transcribe the best bits. And as I'm transcribing them, and this is really the value of the tip that Jimmy Webb gave, because he said, do exactly this, write out your lyrics and turn the page and write them out again. And as you do, you actually make amendments. I don't normally transcribe everything on the previous page directly onto the next. Usually I'll make changes as I'm writing. The physical act of having the pen moving on the page brings new ideas with it. And now I've got a new foundation, and hopefully each foundation gets better than the last. Now sometimes I'll go down a blind alley and I'll get to a stage where I think I don't like any of that, and I can revert back to the previous version because I've got all the versions of the song. But the important thing is that you're trying to move forward every time. And so here we had this idea of, it very quickly got thrown away. The idea of having the warrior dying and going to serve in the palace, etc. It just didn't fit with the music. It didn't feel right. It was going to end up being quite a dark song. It doesn't feel that kind of song. It certainly didn't when I came up with the title. When I wrote the word hummingbird, I didn't have those images in my mind. Nice though it might have been to have this kind of arty interpretation of the word, it wasn't where I wanted the idea to go, and so that very quickly got put aside. And the second idea that splatted onto the page so spontaneously is the one that I picked up and ran with. And so now we've got a new version of the notebook. Version 2 reads, like a flower in winter looking for a way to survive. In the shadows I linger, so still here I hide. I'll show you this. There you go. That's page 2. So you can see at the top where I've transcribed it pretty much. It's not word for word. I didn't write those words on page 1, but I've got some of the ideas. So still here I hide, and then we get, then as the rain clouds pass, the hummingbird flies. Into the warm red summer sun he skitters and dives. And in a golden kiss the hummingbird lies, soaked in the sweet caress of all of our lives. So we've gone from infinite lives to all of our lives. It's still unpleasantly cheesy and doesn't survive for very much longer, but the point is that the ideas are constantly evolving and trying to improve. They're wriggling and twisting against inertia and blind alleys and wrong turns, and they're trying to improve. I'm trying to improve them all the time, and I'll play with different ideas and throw ideas away and bring new ones in. So then we'll carry on like this. What else have we got here? Cloaked in all of this beauty, this is all crossed out, and when all of this beauty fades leaving nothing behind, then remember who warned you. I've gone back to, I'm still trying to see if there's any kind of thing about the original idea. Then remember who warned you is a reference back to the warrior. Hear the wind of my story on the wings of this story, turned on the pages of time, and with barely a whisper. And then there's meaningless jungle rubbish. Just what it means to decide. Spare a thought as I tumble. If you're the guest or the guide. It's an interesting line. I don't remember writing that, and that's actually that's okay. So that's one of those things that I don't remember writing it. I've crossed it out, and now that I come back and read it, if you're the guest or the guide, is all right. So I haven't got a pen. Oh, here it is. I've got a pen. I'm going to kind of, not bad. I'm going to write. Okay. So hopefully I'll come back and I'll see that that idea's got some kind of value, and maybe I can do something with it. And then we got up here, and as the moments pass, the hummingbird cries, singing a soft, sweet, tender song. He dances and dives. He flutters on by. I just changed my mind there. So with a final smile, the hummingbird climbs. Out of our reach once more, he passes on by. And so that's the first idea, where I'm saying, out of our reach once more, he passes on by. A new direction's appeared, completely out of the blue. I had no idea I was going to write that line. I don't really know yet what the lyrics mean or where they're going. But in writing that line, I've now got a new direction. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, we can't just have this song be about a bird flying around, eating food and, hiding from storms. That's too prosaic. It's okay to be prosaic. I don't want to be too up myself here, but I'd like to write lyrics that are interesting to me and capable of multiple interpretations, and that are a little bit challenging to myself. I don't want to understand every word of every song that I write. And some of my favourite lyrics are the ones that aren't completely defined, that have some ambiguity, that allow me to wonder, what does that lyric exactly mean? It might have multiple interpretations. And so now that I've started with the idea of out of our reach once more, he passes on by, I've introduced this concept of struggle, that maybe we've got something to do with this song, and that there's going to be some involvement with us. And that's it. That's all I've got so far. That's the germ of the idea. So when it gets to the stage, and this is this little box over here that's really scribbled on and a right old mess. Eventually gets to the stage where it's just impossible to read. Guess what we do? And now we've got a new version. And once again, I transcribe it. And so now I've got caught like a flower in winter, grasping at a way to survive. That line, looking for a way to survive, is like a 6. It's not amazing. And I'll be as like specific and harsh as to rate every line. If I run through the version of the song that we've got at the moment, like a flower in winter, it's like a 7, maybe. Looking for a way to survive is the weak part of that pair. So that's a 6. Deep in the shadows I linger. That's okay. 7. So still, so quiet. Now let's pause here, because on the page, that so still, so quiet is like a 6. It doesn't read very well, but let's just have a listen to those 4 lines.
Like a flower in winter, looking for a way to survive. Deep in the shadows I linger, so still, so quiet.
Okay, now I really like the way Pauline sings that. The way it lilts down and kind of sinks into the song is exactly what I want. Those are moments in songs that I think I should follow my gut. And I think the lyrics, although not great on the page when I wrote them, I didn't think they were particularly strong. When they're sung, I think that brings them to life, and they become an 8 in my mind. And this is why I asked Pauline to sing these lyrics, because they're not finished. These aren't the lyrics that are going to make their way through to the final song. This song is maybe halfway through written, but I wanted her to sing them because I wanted to hear which words sounded good and which words didn't. How the words work from a meaning perspective, how many layers of interpretation they have, how poetic. It sounds arty to say, poetic, but I think that's what we really, when we're writing lyrics, it's okay to be poetic, to try to impart some meaning into the lyrics. It's equally okay to just have the words sound nice. You don't have to have every line of every song be Bob Dylan quality or Peter Gabriel or somebody who's a great lyricist, Paul Simon. Sometimes words are there just to sound good. Now, Freddie Mercury understood this perfectly because he was capable of writing great lyrics with depth. My Melancholy Blues is a beautiful song. The lyrics are really quite simple but poignant and meaningful. Even Bohemian Rhapsody, has nonsense words in it, but it also has quite a deep emotional impact. But he's also capable of writing words that sound good. Water babies singing in a lily pool delight, blue powder monkeys praying on the dead of night. That's from March of the Black Queen. And I know that there are literary references in there, and go and look them up if you like, but essentially those words are there because they sound good, because they sound great to be sung. That's fine too. And I want to try and marry those two concepts together and have the words sound good and hopefully mean something in equal measure. And so Still So Quiet is one of those examples where it's relatively prosaic on the page, but it sounds good. And as the storm clouds pass, the hummingbird flies. I really like that. Maybe an 8. Under the soft warm summer sun, he skitters and dives. I just like it, and so it's stuck. It's likely to get all the way through to the end of the song. I'm constantly evaluating each line of the song and thinking which ones are good and which ones are bad. And feel free to disagree with me. I would like to know if you have any opinions on any of those lines, whether you think any of them are good. But I like this idea of the first half of the song, he's struggling against nature, and in the second half of the song he's battling against the futility of the struggle against man, sort of thing. So I want to try and avoid making it pretentious, but that's my idea for the concept of the song. But really it's all thanks to Jimmy Webb. That just such a simple idea. You don't have to overthink great ideas. Sometimes they can be really simple. Just have a physical pad. Have a piece of paper and a pen that you write with, and you cross things out and you put arrows and write things like not bad, and then you can refer back to them. You can do those kinds of things in digital form, but it's just more cumbersome. Why would you bother? So yeah, I think it's a really superb idea and has leveled my lyric writing up beyond any other single concept. This evolution of notebooks is definitely the way to go for me. So every song that I have, I bought about 20 of these last year, and I actually use, each notepad is 2 songs worth, because you basically turn the notepad over upside down, and because I'm never going to get halfway. The notepad's got, I don't know, maybe 100 pages in, 200 pages, I don't know. I'm never going to write that many versions of a single song. So I just flip the thing over and use both sides because I'm a cheapskate. But other than that, the concept of having, a single dedicated, this is the Hummingbird notepad. So that's what I really wanted to talk about, the concept of the notebook and the evolution of single concepts, and this relationship of meaningful lyrics and writing songs that mean something to me, that have an emotional impact with me and that resonate. Writing lyrics is something that one of the subjects that I'm most interested in at the moment. There are truly great lyricists out there that inspire me, but I also want to develop my own voice and find my own style and not just copy somebody else. So I hope you've enjoyed that little insight into how I go about writing lyrics. If you subscribe and hit notifications, then you'll get notified when the next version of Hummingbird comes out, and we'll see where the lyrics go from there. And hopefully I'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching.